I try to be proper, but sometimes you got to be efficient. So I'm going to be looking up a little tonight. All right, so we are live streaming here. I'm gonna just let in our guests or our guest for the meeting, and then we can get started with the meeting. All right, so I'm ready whenever you are, Terry.
All right, we will call to order the December 15th Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission regularly scheduled meeting. Do you want to start with roll call, Jamie?
Yes, Chair Terry Steenblock.
Here.
Commissioner Steenblock. Commissioner Miller.
Here.
Commissioner Ramseth.
Here.
Commissioner Gary. Commissioner Moorhead. And Commissioner Geyer.
Here.
All right, and then we would look for an approval of the agenda for tonight's meeting.
I move we approve the agenda.
I'll second.
So we have a motion and a second for approval of the agenda. Any conversation? Hearing nothing, do you want to roll call it, Jamie?
Yes, I'll do Chair Steenblock.
Aye.
Commissioner Miller.
Aye.
Commissioner Ramseth.
Aye.
And Commissioner Geyer.
Aye.
Okay, and then next on the list is the open forum. Jamie, I see Mr. Brueggemann here, but do we have any other written in comments for the open forum?
We do not have any written comments, and Mr. Brueggemann is part of the regular agenda this evening.
Okay. All right, so we will move on then to the regular agenda with 5A and the Hidden Creek concept plan.
All right, so just give me 1 second here. So Chair and Commissioners of the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, last month we met and took a first preliminary look at a concept plan provided by Mr. Brueggemann, who is on this meeting tonight, for the Hidden Creek concept plan. This is just off of Headwaters Parkway. And if, as you guys can recall, we had a good discussion through the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, some in favor of, there was conversation about taking cash payment. There was some conversation about the need for some neighborhood park in that community. We were introduced briefly a concept of a 5-acre park south of the phase 1 of the project. And so we took a quick look at that as well. So Mr. Brueggemann's on the call tonight. He is going to share that updated concept plan. We can look that over as a group here tonight. And in just a minute, I'll turn the floor over to Mr. Brueggemann. I do have multiple documents to share tonight, so just bear with me as I navigate through that so you guys can see what we need to see this evening. All right, so just give me 1 second here. Is everyone familiar with the last conversation on this? I can share my screen here and get you guys, make sure we all know what we're talking about. So, all right, I see my screen up here. So just as a reminder, we had talked about, this is what we looked at last time. Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission very much in favor of staff recommendations on any of the trail connections and developments. And as part of this conversation, Mr. Brueggemann spoke of a potential 5-acre park to the south. So with that tonight, we are going to look at a new concept plan. And so here's what we're going to talk about tonight as a starting point of this conversation. So Mr. Brueggemann, are you there?
I am. Good evening. Appreciate
Good
you guys'
evening.
time tonight. So thank you.
Yep. So I have on my screen here for the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, the concept plan you recently sent over. So I think if you want to kick it off tonight to just talk about this updated version, and then we can turn it over to the commission after that.
Okay. So this is what I gathered from the last meeting that we had, that you guys were more interested in having a complete park, everything developed, the land and the infrastructures and everything improvements done. So, and my preference was not to have the park that was in the plan that was originally, or you just had up tonight, Jamie, that showed the park. It was circled by homes, so it wasn't an amenity that everybody could see.
Correct.
And similar to Summerfield, this is right on the, kind of the main road that comes into this neighborhood. And, we still have to do some calculations on ponding and where all that is going to go. But regardless of that, the park is X size, and, the ponding does not count for parkland. So if we need to add, let's say 2 acres of ponding, we'd have to figure out an area that would be outside of the park area to create that. But to me, I like this location. I think from the conversation that we had the last time is that it was, there was more of a concern than of getting a complete park that was done with all the playground equipment, trails running through it. And we don't have that level of detail yet. But, we certainly can work on that as we move through the approval process with the cities. But this is what we came up with.
All right. So I know, thank you for that recap and sharing this new updated concept. From a parks, I'm going to stop my screen share just for a minute here. So from a Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission standpoint, I know again, last week, last meeting, the results were to come back with multiple options to consider. Again, take cash, consider just taking the land as proposed, or some combination of land and cash in the first phase. So, is there any initial questions from Parks, Trails, Lakes Commission on Mr. Brueggemann's concept?
I have a question. It says it's 255,000 square feet. How is that in terms of acres?
I think you're on mute.
It's 5.85 acres roughly.
Thank you.
Approximately 5.85. I mean, our goal was we were trying to end up with about a 5-acre park. It's just the way that, the concept plan is laid out here with the houses and the roads. So I guess my proposal is to do approximately a 5-acre park, plus or minus.
All right. Just any other comments or questions from Parks Commission at this time on the concept shared?
The only comment I would make is that this, where you've shifted it, it aligns with the conversation we had at the last meeting. And I think it was Betty who brought up the fact that then we wouldn't have one small park and then another little small park. It gives us the opportunity to position that a little bit better and put it more, I would say, in the middle of the development.
Yeah, and I know since the last meeting, city staff met as well, along with our city engineer and our public works director. And I just want to share, I think that there's some concerns with the land for that, for this proposal. And I'm going to share again here. Looking at this, here on our system with the wetlands showing in the yellow. So there's some feedback that this would be, can you guys see where I'm pointing to here?
Yeah.
It seems like it might be not the best, quality of land, or it might be pretty wet compared to some of the
Jamie,
land originally proposed. Is that?
that's not the right spot.
Oh, where am I at here? Sorry, right here.
Yeah, there's no wetlands shown on the map where the park is
Okay.
being proposed.
Okay. Sorry.
Yeah, right over there. Well, if I'm glad you brought this map up. If you look at this, let's just take these 6 40-acre parcels, if you will, here. That kind of puts the park right in the middle of that whole area. I mean, I know it's not a regional park, but where this park is, if you, where the development is already, that the homes are built, Then there's a large lowland, partially wetland, but you know, there's some high in there. And then there's this 60 that we're developing to the north, right? And then there's 3 40s that are on the south there. This park is kind of right in the middle of all of that land.
Mhm.
And I mean, you know, if the idea is to have, you know, tot lot or pocket parks, that's one thing. If the idea is to have more of a, you know, a little larger, bigger space, which I think I've told you I prefer, and I like it to be part of the landscape of the development. It's more expensive to do this because we're running roads alongside of it. We're not developing on it, but I think it gives the neighborhood a better feel for a variety of reasons. You know, the open space, the green area, the park area, the amenities that go into the park. And again, I don't mean to ramble, but I just think it's a great location. If you look at these 6 parcels of land that are, you know, proposed to be, you know, the newer, the latest or the newest development that's going to happen.
Right. And I think, and I'm glad you mentioned that as well. And I think one of the things to talk about, I know city staff also talked a little bit and kind of was trying to figure out how do we, you know, kind of find the balance between this, because as Mr. Brueggemann mentioned, there is in our 2040 comp plan conversation of a regional park further southwest. So closer to kind of corner by Fenway and 190th general area. So it's still far enough away. So city staff was trying to figure out what's the balance and just came up. And I think Mr. Brueggemann, you did see some form of document like this shared by our administrator, Patrick Casey.
Yep.
But the city staff was almost wondering if we keep that, you know, consider something along these lines where in green here is our phase 1 development, and that'd be, let's just say for conversation, 1.5 acres. So we would take some land now in phase 1 development, and then the rest of this would be a cash payment. And then when you get to phase 2, and I don't know which phase 2 would be, if it would be this parcel or the other one, but we put phase 2 here just because the sewer and water connections are established. So let's just say for ease of conversation, the purple phase does happen next. This could potentially be another 1.5 acres or so of parkland. And then again, the rest would be cash payment for the rest of that development. So, you know, that would in total in time, once all the phases build out, we could have a 3-acre neighborhood park here, kind of to Mr. Brueggemann's point of, you know, 3 acres is similar to like a Sean Silvera. It's a good sized park where you can have parkland, you know, some playground equipment and amenities. It is, instead of being centralized to this one development right here, phase 1, it is more central to that area. It's not, you know, it's just adjacent to the current proposal we're looking at tonight as a concept plan. And then this would allow us the opportunity to get some cash now, get some cash in phase 2 and 3. And really, I think looking at the bigger picture at that regional park, the city is also working on a regional stormwater plan. So instead of having all the smaller neighborhood parks, you know, this could be an opportunity to look at how do we get to that regional park with a regional stormwater pond together. So, you know, this was one idea of accommodating a neighborhood park for this development, but also securing some cash to put towards a regional park with regional stormwater. So I just wanted to share, and I know Mr. Brueggemann, we haven't had a chance to speak on this too, but I just wanted to kind of work through this tonight to see if this is something too that we could consider. Because I believe if we go with the 5 acres that you just, you know, shared in your concept plan, that would be, that we wouldn't have that land dedicated until that phase happens, correct?
Correct. Well, I'm working with Chris Taylor to see if there's a way that we could purchase that with our park dedication fees sooner. But the people aren't going to be there. I mean, we'll be into that phase by the time these, you know, the homes are built. There's not a park there right now, and we're only going to be building the first phase. In my opinion, the location that I shown on this plan is where I prefer it to be and think it's going to be in the long-term play is going to be a better amenity for everybody. Saying that, looking at the two ovals that you have, I guess the only thing I would say is that's fine, but I guess then I'd like to bring them down so they're on that main road. So they're visual, to everybody. If we were to bring the green oval down to, let's see, down into the right, where right there. And then the purple one, maybe we put it right in there. So it's at least on that, frontage area, and I know, and maybe we do something that, you guys can take that parkland. I know there's some concerns about what if this development doesn't happen? Well, and that happens all the time, but there are also developments happen and they get completed all the time. If maybe there's somehow we set aside some of this land that is for park, and then if this moves through fast enough that we can put it in this location. I guess I don't understand, or I'm not sure why what's the objection? If you're to look at this and we were going to say, all right, this is going to all happen at one time, where's the best spot to have a park?
I think a centralized location is, I think some concern potentially about Headwaters Parkway being a, busier road with having the parkland right next to that could be a potential concern. But I think definitely more of a centralized location. If this whole thing builds out, a nice neighborhood park would be appropriate. But I think that, trying to look at the big picture and how are we going to fund the regional park and have that, to the south more where it's planned in our 2040 comp plan. I think, maybe we don't need 5 acres for this park, and that's for Parks Commission's conversation tonight. A 5-acre park with a stormwater pond for this neighborhood may not be necessary if we focus on combining all of those resources to have one larger 10 to 15 acre regional park where we do all of our regional stormwater management at that same location as well. So we don't have all of these smaller parks with the ponds at them. So I think the size is a consideration for discussion is, maybe this isn't a 5-acre park for this project. And then that allows us, this is kind of brings us back to our last meeting of, we'd be looking at a combination of land and cash in this first phase. So maybe it's a total of 2 to 3 acre parkland, and then the rest would be a cash payment. So I guess that's kind of the conversation to find that medium of some funding so we could support the growth, developing a regional park in the future. So I guess I'll turn it over to Parks, Trails, Lakes Commissioners to see if there's any comments or questions on either of the concepts. And again, these are concept plans and we're just, I think, working to figure out where's the best place for placing these parks. So the park.
So Jamie, can you unshare screen so we can see everybody? Do you mind?
Nope, not at all.
Thank you. Mr. Brueggemann, were you going to say something?
Yeah, as far as the regional park and that ponding, is there any time frame and when that is proposed to happen? I don't think any of that's going to happen.
On that. No, I think that's, definitely something in the future. So I think that this development definitely will need some land to service as a neighborhood park for this development. Because I think that regional park is down the road a ways, plus it's going to be too far away to service this, neighborhood. So I do think some parkland would be appropriate for this development.
And I agree, and we would like to have that as an amenity to our neighborhood.
So Jamie, if I'm looking at the staff recommendation that you just talked about, in that case, we would, as you mentioned, 2 to 3 acres, maybe we looked at about 3 acres, which would align with the size of some of the other parks as a phase 1. And then phase 2 would be an additional 3 acres. I do feel like So I'm the one that has been very adamant about not taking land, at least one of us. I have been one that has been very adamant about not taking land because it's our only funding source. But I feel like with the staff plan there, there's kind of a nice compromise in that we're taking some land, which would allow for some green space. And when phase 2 comes, then maybe we could look at the bigger picture as to how we would fill out that park, for lack of a better term. But then also we're balancing that with the ability to get some money, which, like I said, to me is a nice compromise. It's kind of giving us a little bit of both. It's allowing for some land in there for park development, and it's allowing for that cash component as well. If I'm understanding correctly what you were saying.
Yes, I think that summarizes it. And I do kind of thinking back to staff conversations with city engineer and Mr. Bergman, maybe you know or not, on the parkland in your concept plan tonight, there was some concern, is that like a lower land there versus like the initial concept plan we saw last month was all high land. So they're concerned, I think there might be are there concerns with potentially that being lower land and drainage into the parkland?
No, not in my opinion, it is not.
Okay, and that's not my area of expertise of understanding the topography and things like that. So,
Well, it is a lower point, and my hope would be is I could have ponding around the park, very similar to what we did at Summerfields. And but the park land would not qualify for a dedication if it was wet land.
right.
So if I had 10 acres of wetland and you only want 3 acres, zero of that 10 acres would qualify.
Right. So, and I know, kind of going back to the regional plan that the city's working on, and the city just got their JD4 regional stormwater planning information back. So I know that the city is working on a plan to figure out where that regional stormwater pond can be. And I think having that with a regional park to the south, where it's projected in the 2040 comp plan, might eliminate some of these neighborhood parks all having to have a small or, some form of pond with the park. So I think that's more of the, Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission, conversation is thinking towards that regional park with a regional stormwater pond, and just taking, just some acreage for parkland to meet that neighborhood park. Does that make sense?
It does to me.
It does to you? Okay.
Does to me. But
So I guess
I'm the only one though. I don't know, Doug or Tim or Betty, any comments?
See, I like
Yeah.
I like the idea of the staff idea of having a smaller park put in immediately with the first development and then adding that. It seems to make some sense, and getting some money to build things out a little bit would be great as well.
And I think back to a time not long ago where we as a group had decided that going forward, we would not take land, although I see the need for a park in this location, I do. So I'm open to a hybrid method, but we really came together and said, this is going to be part of our plan, not taking, the land and taking the money, because it is our only budget. So.
Betty, did you have any thoughts or comments?
No, that's exactly what I was thinking. I really like the Central Park idea that Mr. Brueggemann showed us. I just am not sure funding wise where we sit. And so I like the hybrid idea if we need some cash to build out or maintain that park.
I think the benefit, and all of those are great points, and I think the benefit of taking just at least some acreage, and this is just kind of an estimation of where, I mean, it's not set in stone where those ovals are indicated, but that general area, so that we're guaranteed some land in this development, in this phase 1 development, so that worst case scenario, if the development doesn't continue, there is some parkland and green space for that neighborhood. The nearest park otherwise would be Fenway or Bridle Pass. And then again, the regional park would obviously be much further away. So, so it sounds like everyone's, in support of some, or would consider some parkland in the for phase 1.
Yes.
Yeah, can you bring the map back up? I know I'm the one who said take it down. I'm needy
Nope, that's
tonight.
okay.
So
What's new?
someone mentioned that, are you talking about 1.5 acres in the first phase or 3 acres in the first phase? And 1.5 acres in both of the first 2 phases, or 3 acres in both phases?
Well, good question. Just for conversation, we used 1.5 acres in phase 1 with 1.5 acres in the second phase, so that all together, when phase 1 and phase 2 are complete, it'd be a 3-acre park. Those numbers were just arbitrary, just for conversation. So, also knowing that a 3-acre park is a good sized park. Some of our other neighborhood parks are give or take 3 acres that serve that neighborhood well. So that was just a starting point to have this idea of a kind of a compromise of some land in cash now, and then some land in cash in the next phase, so that all together it's, the parcels or the parkland is together between the 2 phases, that we have a nice space for a neighborhood park. And so that's certainly up for discussion or consideration. It doesn't have to just be 1.5 acres. It was a starting point, and a complete 3-acre park, I think, would be a nice neighborhood park.
So if, where I have it located, if something could be arranged to buy that roughly 3 acres in that general area as part of our, the 60 acres or first phase development, would that be satisfactory?
Commissioners?
So I guess my question would be, did city staff look at that from a drainage or a topography standpoint? Do we have any issues? Is that right on Taylor? I'm just trying to look at the map here to figure out, is that right next to Taylor's property there, or?
Let me just zoom in here and get my bearings straight. Hold on. Okay, so right in here, I think, let's see. I don't work with this platform
Sorry.
often, so let's
So
see.
we're like right where the road almost ends now.
Right here?
It'd be south of there, and there's no wetlands that are shown. Actually, it'd even be more to the, well, it'd be about where the road is platted. You'd go a little bit to
Okay.
your left, if you would, to about,
Yep,
so it'd
right
be
here.
right about there, which it doesn't
Mhm.
show that there's any wetlands there, but
I think maybe I was thinking of that it was potentially lower lands versus the
Right.
original proposal was all highlands. So potentially some concerns. And again, I think that's with our city engineer had expressed some concerns about it being lower land and like the drainage potentially being an issue. So I think that was the only potential concern with that general area. But again, I think, you're wondering if 3 acres of that could be secured in advance. Would you still be considering a pond at that location?
possibly, I guess if I can, I would, yes.
Okay.
But I guess if if the park is let's say a lower portion of the development, but it's not wetland, what's the negative of that? I don't understand.
The only concern would be, would we have a drainage issue there, is my only, where that land would be really, really wet all of the time. And speaking I lived on the other side of this development and I can tell you about really, really wet land. And so that would be my only concern is that if it's lower, are we going to have a lot of runoff and unusable parkland there because it's so saturated is my only question or concern.
Okay, well, so I guess back to the drawing, if there was some way to move it to the west and, but at least have it frontage on the, I think if you move it to the west, you get into worse soil myself, but I think I think that's the lower, that's,
Well, and I think the missing piece, and I think the one missing piece is, understanding the topography or the soil or where the best location is for it, given the quality of that area. And I think that's something that we just, with our city engineer will need to figure out that piece before you make any final adjustments to a concept plan. But I think from a Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission standpoint, I think the focus or objective is to determine, if we're, from our last meeting to now, we've talked about some different options. And if we're looking at that compromise or that, parkland plus cash option, focusing on, is there the desire for the small parkland plus cash for this phase 1 development? And then in the second phase, additional parkland with additional cash to fund the project.
and I don't know that there's gonna be parkland and cash generated from this first phase if the park's gotta be, if the improvements to the park need to be done.
I'm just going to throw a motion out there and then for purposes of discussion, I would make a motion that we accept the staff recommendation to do a phased 1, 1.5 to 2 acres of land plus the cash contribution without the development of the park, without the equipment or such included in that. Because then we could take that green space, it could be used until the other phase of it comes about. Then you put the two of them together for a full 3 acres and then we could look at developing it.
I'll
Okay.
second that motion.
So we have a motion and a second, conversation or discussion on that.
Councilmember Dyer?
Just so I fully understand this, so then what we would be saying is we would get, the cash that we get would be set aside, or somehow we would earmark that amount of cash to be used to actually develop a park in the green space.
Correct.
Okay.
I think we should have more discussions about how we use that park dedication fees because we haven't always used it exactly where it has been intended. And I think if we do cash up front here, we have the potential. And again, I think we need more conversations, but if we do cash and we earmark that, and then we sit and wait for phase 2 until we have the full 3 acres, could we invest in that, use that money somewhere else, and then potentially build more revenue to add to this one? I think it's a conversation for another day, but it's
I
just a thought.
think you should just be sure what your ordinance says can be done with that, the
Yeah.
cash that's generated from the development.
Right. The uses of the parkland
Yeah.
I'm
fund,
not-
parkland dedication funds.
Yeah, I'm not 100% sure.
I believe it's on new developments or debt services to pay off a new development if it's funded through the bond or any other debt service. But yes, we would, to confirm that and make sure. But to Chair Steenblock's point, you're saying that in this motion, you're not saying that the funds that would be received in phase 1 development are earmarked specifically for this development. When it's complete, there's more conversations on that. Commissioner Miller.
So, just as a matter of discussion on this, in the past, we have taken park dedication funds from other developments and used it, to your point, Jamie, for debt on separate parks. So I think that'd be really helpful to understand. In my time on commission, it hasn't been at least explained to me in that way that these funds need to be earmarked for specific equipment for that particular, property. And I do like the idea of leaving that open where that's not the requirement. Knowing that, it may be a while till we want to develop that, especially depending on when phase 2 happens. A concern I have though is with this, the other question of this motion, I like the hybrid idea. I think it's the way to go if we can here. But if we lock in right now to that, and then they come back to us and say, here's the park and here's, $10. That's all that's left, or however that valuation process works. Evaluating the land. I'm wondering if we don't need more information before we can make that final decision.
I can give you some of that information in just a second here on the you're wondering about the calculation of what would be the land to the cash.
Yeah, I mean, is there I would want to look for, okay, here's the cash. The cash is
Yeah.
$200,000 or whatever the number is. I forget how many are in this new proposed development.
So in phase 1 development, there's 120 homes proposed, give or take, depending on the parkland, obviously. So
Right.
how that calculation would work. So the phase 1 is 120 homes at $2,500 per home, which would be that $300,000 in parkland dedication fees if we just took the cash.
Okay.
And then the phase 1 credit, let's just say for the 1.5 acres, and it's times $30,000 per acre, would be a $45,000 credit. So we would get the 1.5 acres of parkland and $255,000 in cash for to meet the parkland dedication requirement on phase 1.
Thank you. That helps.
That was a good question, Tim.
Yeah, great
Thank
question.
you.
Jamie, is there a way that you can find out for us about how
Yes.
that money needs to be, if it needs to be earmarked? I know I hear Mr. Brugman saying that, it might have to be earmarked for this specific park. Is that something you can easily look up, or is it something you gotta do some research on?
I can easily look it up, and I'm pretty sure the answer isn't on any new development. So let's say we go with this approach and take the 1.5 acres with the $255,000 cash. To Terry's point, there can be conversation on where exactly that's spent, but for example, I do believe that could be earmarked or saved for developing a new park, the regional park, not that far away. So it has to be a new development. So we could put this towards the regional park if that's what we decide in the future conversations, but that's just one example. Another example could be we take the 1.5 acres now with the $255,000 cash, and then we get to phase 2 and we're taking another 1.5 acres and let's just say $255,000 cash. We can then take those park dedication dollars we've received from phase 1 and phase 2 to buy equipment or amenities for this neighborhood park. Does that make sense?
Yes, that does. Thank
So
you.
let's say that we end up with a 3-acre park after 2 phases and the cash, we could put $200,000 in improvements to this neighborhood park. We still have additional cash that could go to a regional park. Or any other new development, park development. So
As the
that,
developer, excuse me, go ahead.
oh, no, you can go ahead.
I'm just saying, we want a park and we would
Yeah.
like to have it developed as part of our development, not just the parkland without improvements done to it.
To clarify, your want for that is initially in phase 1 or when the whole project's developed?
Well, when the project's developed, when the parkland is there, we'd want it to be developed, just like you guys would want me to develop it if we were putting it in. Which I'm not sure why we wouldn't be putting it in, but you are, but I don't understand that exactly.
So this is a nice compromise between taking the park dedication funds because it's our only funding source. In my mind, I'm only one person but my thought process being that this is a nice compromise between dedicating some land over here for a park and also ensuring that we're getting revenue to take care of some of the issues and needs that we have. Oops, Suri doesn't like that.
Sorry, you didn't like that.
He doesn't understand. So, I
Well,
mean, that's,
let me see if I can, if I'm clear. So if there's a 1.5 acre parcel that is provided for the park plus cash, Mr. Brueggemann, you'd want in that first phase, something, some equipment on that parkland, or it could just sit there unused for, I don't know how long it would take before phase 2 is implemented, because that you have 120 homes to sell, and then who knows when phase 2 would come along. So that parkland could sit there and not actually provide any amenities other than an amount of space for that first phase. So you would want, your desire would be to have some equipment put on that in the first phase.
No, I don't think logistically that would work real well of doing half of the park. I think we'd have to work with, city staff and you guys or whoever's involved and, how the timing would work that we can develop the park, at the right time that it flows with everything that needs to be done. Not that it's, we do a half an acre and a half now and then come back and try to do a half of an acre and a half later or whatever that number ends up. I think it'd be better if we could figure out where the land is and that we do it, at one time. I guess that would be my preference at this point.
Good, and I agree. I think that makes more sense than trying to put equipment on a small parcel to start.
So, go ahead. Any other? Terry, any other discussion items on it?
no, I have a motion on the floor. We can either yay or nay it and then come back for additional. I have questions, but it's not in relation to the motion, so.
Can you repeat your motion?
So my motion was to accept the staff recommendation of taking a phase 1 of 1.5 acres to an acre and a half for phase 1, 1.5 acres to 2 acres for phase 1, and 1.5 acres to 2 acres for phase 2, and blending the land acquisition with park dedication fees. And then allowing, I would want to make sure we consult with city engineers to make sure that the spot for that is the appropriate spot.
Is that an amended motion?
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't remember what I said.
It seems a little different, so it seems
Okay,
an amended motion, so you would need an amended second.
okay.
I'll amend the second there. Yeah, I'll second the amended motion.
Any further discussion?
Any further discussion on that? Hearing no discussion, do you want to roll call it, Jamie?
Chair Steenblock,
Aye.
Commissioner Ramseth,
Aye.
Commissioner Miller,
Aye.
Commissioner Geyer.
Aye.
All right. So, Mr. Brueggemann, I think you and I, and we can meet with Administrator Casey and our city engineer just to talk about where we should look at that map again and see exactly where it would work for the development and the parkland.
Can I ask just a overall question?
Sure.
If we were coming in to do this whole development at one time, all of it, do you like where that park is located?
From the plan you shared today,
Yes.
any feedback aside from not knowing, the low potential for the lowland? Do you like the location? That's the question.
I do like the location, and I would assume, much to what you said, Mr. Brueggemann, that any wetland in this, what might be considered drainage or wetland would be not considered part of the dedicated land. And I would expect between your outfit and city engineers that what was produced from an overall land, once the final design is, that we wouldn't have bad land. So I like the location. I like the fact that it is off the main road, although I can see some argument about, is it too busy of a road or not? But I do like that option personally.
I like that it's further south than the original proposed plan. I think it's a better fit there. My concern would be if you look at Summerfield, I'll use the example of when we were playing that game, when we were testing that game for Summerfield. You do have some parkland that's pretty close to some roads that people don't drive very carefully on. So I would want to make sure that wherever we put the park, it's not too close to the roads, would be my thought there. And I also don't think, obviously, it would be on the swampy wetlands, but that's pretty thick clay soil over there. And even if it's not a wetland, there are some drainage issues over there. And it's so wet, you are literally stomping through it. In some aspects feels like a cranberry field. So I would just want to make sure drainage isn't an issue. And I would have to defer to city engineers for that.
Any other commissioner comments on that location? No?
No, hearing no other comments.
All right, guys. Well, I appreciate your time. Thank you very much. Appreciate your feedback.
Yep, that's no problem. Thanks for being here. We'll connect. I'll get in touch with you after the meeting tonight. Set up a time to talk next steps.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
All right, so next on the agenda is 6A Forest Hills Farm Phase 2 development.
All right, just let me get over to this here. 1 second. Okay. All right, so Chair and members of the Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission, before you received a staff memo from our zoning administrator, Donovan Hart, regarding the Phase 2 Forest Hills Farm Second Edition. And this is for additional recreation amenities. So if you had time to review the memo, there's a developer in Forest Hills Farms who's looking to do the second phase of their development. They did meet the parkland dedication requirements in their first phase, where there is parkland dedicated as part of this. So this is not a parkland dedication consideration before you tonight. It's just a informational piece for you, and also just to make you aware of the proposed recreational amenities to improve the area for not only this development, but the general public as well. This is a discussion item tonight. If you have any other thoughts or discussion items aside from the staff recommendation, feel free to discuss that this evening. So as you can see here, the property highlighted is the second phase of the development. Mr. Hart provided some additional information about it, specifically But the recreational amenities that the staff has recommended are shown here tonight. And this is as a result of our city engineer and our zoning administrator going on site to review this area. And so the staff recommends and believes that adding some additional trail to already an existing trail within this property would make a nice recreational amenity. I'll just share my screen so you guys can see this if you're not looking at it right now. Let's see here. 1 second here. Technology. All right, so I'll put this up so you guys can see this trail as we're talking through this. So as you can see here, there's an existing public easement to this trail off of the Forest Hills Farms development. So currently this green trail exists. You can park in this little roundabout here. And there's a few parking spots, and then you can access this public access trail through the woods to here. And so what is recommended is that as part of this improvement is to continue this trail, which is indicated in blue here. And this is where the trail development would stop. However, then it does connect to sidewalk. So theoretically, you could do this whole loop and it's about a mile long. So that's the recreational amenity that staff is proposing. Again, just wanted to share with the Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission. You know, doesn't need official approval because it's not a parkland dedication, but I know that the zoning administrator wanted some input from Parks, Trails and Lakes to make sure that this seems like a suitable request for the developer as part of phase 2. So with that, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them. Otherwise, it's open for discussion.
Jamie, on the map, it shows proposed park. And then there's the, what's north of that? Is that what? It says public park. How is that wetland or is that, what is that?
So Outlot D indicated as a public park.
Right.
It's an open space. It's not really wetlands. There's a few trees back there, but it's just a pretty open area. And then some of that trail cuts off into the woods. So it's a pretty open space.
And there's been no request or we have no interest in putting any amenities in that park other than benches along the trail?
Good question. I mean, since I've been here, there hasn't really been any work done with the Forest Hills Farms development. This first phase was done before I was here, and I know that, you know, I don't know, I think that trail that was indicated as a recreational amenity was in the original development plans for Forest Hills Farms, so it aligns with that original concept from years ago to complete that trail through the development. But there hasn't been any conversation that I'm aware of any park amenities, just as keeping it as a natural park space, given that there's the lake there and some of the woods and trails.
Thank you.
Jamie, is there something, if we think about accessibility, I noticed that it talks about, you know, flattening out the existing wood chip trail and covering it with new wood chips. Is there, from an accessibility standpoint, would the I can never say it, bituminous asphalt be just by itself be better than wood chips to allow, if we were thinking about our concept of making sure that we're accommodating accessibility?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think the idea behind that was to keep some of that as more of like a nature trail and just keep that, just improve that existing wood chip area. Obviously a bituminous trail is going to be more accessible. So I guess I'd have to circle back to see if, you know, if that was even a consideration or if they just noticed that that existing trail needed to be maintained.
Well, I think that's a good point, Terry, because as a wood chip trail, it's good for mountain bike kind of bike riding and walking. You can't push a baby stroller very easily through wood chips. So that would be a good thing to check on. Why would a bituminous path be better?
That's a good point and good feedback, so I can pass that along and consult with Donovan on that. Over,
Anybody else
um,
have comments? Oh,
go ahead.
sorry, Jamie.
nope, that's okay. I was just gonna see if there was any other overall thoughts on in support of the recommended trail connection.
I like the trail connection. I mean, I think that's the right thing to do. It's just, yeah, the question of the surfacing.
Okay.
And parking, how much parking is allowed over there? Or would there be growth opportunities for parking if it's by that? Is it just a few spots?
Well, so the plan here shows there's a few parking spots in the existing cul-de-sac. And this memo does reference additional parking in the other, I believe, roundabout. I did receive an email from Administrator Hart indicating that he doesn't think that the additional parking is needed. So it would just be a few parking spots right at the beginning of the trail connection that currently exists. So unless you feel that you want additional parking, but then the concept with that is you have one spot for parking and then it's a looped trail that people could park and know that they're going to get a mile walk in if they complete the whole loop.
Any other comments or questions? No? Okay. So you'll carry that feedback back?
Yes, I will carry the feedback to Mr. Hart with support of the trail as a new recreational amenity as part of the phase 2 development. And just questioning or getting some feedback on the accessibility, so the surface for the wood chip trail. What, why to keep it wood chip versus bituminous.
All right.
Great.
So next up is the 10-year plan.
All right, so Chair and members of the Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission, as a result of our December 1st workshop, we've been working on building out a 10-year financial plan for Parks, Trails and Lakes. So tonight, I know we've done a lot of work on the 10-year plan. I just wanted to share where we're at with this, just to get any commissioner feedback. And just, I don't want to dig into too much of the plan details itself, just as long as we are on the right trajectory with what is required to submit to City Council by the end of Q1. So with that, these numbers are tentative. They are, not exact, just for putting that on the record that these are just numbers we're having here as placeholders for now. But Commissioner Geyer helped set up this framework to at least start building out a spreadsheet that's going to eventually be complete. As you can see here, we are listing all the parks. So we will list all the parks down the side. And then we've started to fill in some of the items that were called out in the 2014 comp plan that are not, the 2014 Parks Master Plan that have not yet been completed. So you'll see some of these listed here. These years and projections, again, are not set in stone. It's a working document at this time. So we are going to list, per Councilmember Bystrom's recommendation, all of the parks and all improvements that we would see necessarily fit for each park. So this will be flushed through, and we'll continue to work through that of what we know and what we can make some good estimates on. So that's the parks piece. Trails, I did want to share, I did put in a number here. Ryan Goodman, our city engineer, did send over a trail development recommendation. And so I think this is a good placeholder in our 10-year plan as we talk about what's a good local trail connection to do. So this just came in recently, but he did suggest a 10-foot wide bituminous trail off of Highway 97 all the way over here, off of Fenston Avenue to get you to Fenway Park. So that would make a good local connection, especially once the Highway 97 project is complete, which is going to be in a few years that MnDOT is currently, or is going to start soon. And so I took that cost estimate from here, which was the $238,165. So I just wanted to note that, you know, we have some movement on trail development as potential trail development opportunities. This cost here would be if this was a standalone trail development project as recommended. Obviously, we can save some money if it's in conjunction with a local street project. Some of those mobilization costs and other costs would be reduced or eliminated. So just wanted to share that. I do have city engineer on our January agenda to further elaborate on trail developments so that we can have a good placeholder for that in our plan. He also did share, again, which we can go over more in January, but he does have an existing pedestrian trails map here. We don't need to go over it tonight, but I will send this out to you just so you can see what we have as existing trails, whether it's sidewalks, paved trails. So we have bituminous paths, concrete pavers, or concrete sidewalks. So my conversation with him has been, let's look at what's existing and what are some local connections we could make that would make a meaningful local trail connection. So some progress on that trail side of things. And again, this will be on our January agenda to really work on in greater detail. So with that, I'm just gonna show you, we have there's the trails. The lakes component will determine what our priorities are for that. We have a tab for recreation facilities. So things like the senior center, a golf course, any golf course items, dog park. This would be if we wanted to find a recreational hub of some sorts, we could list that here. And then our technology bucket, which we haven't put anything in there yet. So this is the framework. This is basically the financial sheet that will complete in Q1, hopefully January, February. And then to supplement this, we'll also provide a Word document, 1 or 2 pages with some additional information regarding how these priorities were determined, why these particular projects, and just some more information to council so they understand the why behind these items. So with that, just wanted to have a quick discussion tonight. If there's anything that you'd like to see done different, or if you're comfortable with this direction that we're moving on our 10-year financial plan and priorities.
Jamie, could you email that to us?
I'd be happy to do that. Any other comments or thoughts on where we're going?
Well, I think it's a good start, and I appreciate your guys' work on that.
Thank you. And thank you to Commissioner Geyer for jumping in and helping out on a quick turnaround and starting to build that framework so we can just fill it in from here on out. So thank you.
You're welcome. It helps me learn too. So
Good. Good.
I just want to say I really appreciate the direction that's headed. That's very, very helpful. So good work. I can't wait to see the finished product.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So just one clarifying question. The first quarter, we'll use that spreadsheet then and kind of add in anything or adjust anything? Is that what the plan is before we submit it to council?
The plan would be to update this based on our 10-year planning sessions and workshops.
Okay,
That it aligns with that.
got
But
it.
the conversation from our last workshop was there's a lot of information from the 2014 Parks Plan that is incomplete. And I think that picture needs to be painted as well and included. So a lot of the park stuff will be pulled from the 2014 plan. And then we'll also add in any new identified priorities that need to be considered. So this is definitely a working document, but I hope it paints the picture of what we'll be presenting to council by the end of Q1. So we can continue this conversation in January. And I think by February, we should have a a final spreadsheet and hopefully get to our final stages in February so we can present to council.
Perfect. Thank you for clarifying.
Yep. All right.
All right, so then it's 7A, the communications and recreation hiring.
All right, so I will go through these updates here fairly quickly, but the city staff has interviewed, we had several strong candidates for the communication and recreation position. And city staff did interview 3 individuals last week. And the city is working on writing up an offer and hope to get an offer presented and to the city council for consideration and approval in their first meeting in January, which would be January 11th. So that's positive news to move that forward.
Tell Patrick, thank you on my behalf.
I will do that. No, I think it's exciting. We have some strong candidates, so I think we'll be happy to get that complete and get somebody new and onboarded with the communications and recreation. Any questions?
No.
All right. Hometown holiday, we are working quickly to bring some holiday cheer to the community. We are doing a couple things just to help reach out and support the community. We're suggesting and collecting donations, local gift cards in any denomination. We have a drop-off box here at the city center. So all those gift cards collected will go to Canvas Health. They have 7 families in Forest Lake that are in a need of assistance this holiday season. So it can be for food for the families or any kind of gifts or clothing items they need. We're also collecting cards for seniors in our community that are members of the senior center. They are still in a closure, so encouraging children and families to just write a holiday card, drop it off at the city center. We can just mail those out to members depending on how many we have come in. And lastly, we are going to present a holiday message to the community in the form of a video that LATV 10 is working on. We are going to ask the community, anyone who's interested, to submit a picture from the tree downtown. They can write a holiday message and hold it up with their picture. Businesses, families, groups, organizations, friends, pretty much anybody, everybody's welcome and can get creative with that. So it'll be on our website tonight, a submission form. Actually, it's already on there, where you can just simply take your picture from your phone and upload it to we have a link on our website, and those will be collected and part of that holiday message to the community. And then lastly, we do have Santa coming to town on Saturday. It's going to be kind of a surprise. We haven't had a lot of time to get community communications out, but Santa is going to be driving around on a fire truck from 6 to 8 p.m. this Saturday. So we are just working on the final step of that, of the route Santa will be on, but I think people will find him and see him, and I think the community will be excited about that. So just thank you to commissioners who've helped with this. We've had a lot of different things thrown our way this year, and so community events have looked different, and so it's challenging to start from the beginning and do something completely different. So our goal is really just to try to bring some holiday cheer to the community in these final weeks as we get closer to the holiday season. So with that, any questions?
Jamie, have you met with the fire department yet? I was just wondering about the elves.
Yeah, we talked briefly today, so I'll follow up with you. We actually just connected this afternoon.
Oh, perfect. Okay,
I'll
thank
follow
you.
up with you after the meeting as well.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Any other questions or comments on that?
I just have one more update then. It's not listed, but just as a result of council meeting and workshop or meetings last night. Just a quick update on the Castlewood Golf Course. Last night, the council meeting, there's just a slight change of course with the clubhouse. The $150,000 from the CARES funding is not going to be used for the clubhouse. And so council approved that motion to rescind the use of those dollars. And then the second part of their motion and approval is council would like some scenarios to consider for the clubhouse design. So just an update on that. I don't know where this will go or what that timeline will be like, but there may or may not, be an opportunity for the Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission to chime in on this as we move forward with that clubhouse consideration.
So there may be an opportunity for us to look at the design.
I don't know, but I don't know which direction, but it might come back and funnel through Parks, Trails or Lakes Commission, but just wanted to let you know that if the clubhouse is currently on a pause for the time being, and then we'll come back in January to kind of look at some different scenarios to consider. I know there was a lot of, and that was a result of community input and feedback on the proposed design and feedback from the city's planning commission.
Gotcha.
So if this is essentially on the back burner right now, and actually the funding piece of it would be changing, how do we anticipate, any thoughts on the funding side of that, and or if design is all okay, how we would move forward with that? Is that something that we should be putting in the 10-year plan? Or Kathy, do you have any thoughts?
Well, I have some thoughts. Obviously, we now have a little, we're taking a, what do they say? 1 step forward, 2 steps back. We took 1 step forward and about 20 steps back. And what I would say is I do have a response to all of this on my Facebook page. If you're on Facebook, feel free to head to my city council page and read my novel. I really wanted the community to know what went into my personal decision on this initially, but I had no hesitation last night rescinding the use of those funds after lots of opportunity to learn more. As you know, this came fast and furious. We never even got a chance to run it by Parks, Trails and Lakes Commission, which we should have. That would have been the preferred process for me. And it was just, it looked at that point in time like there was alignment. And over time, the more we learned, the more we realized that it probably did not, and ultimately secured our legal counsel to really do a deep dive into it, which helped the decision making immensely. Anytime the federal government does something like this, I don't know if you've been following the Paycheck Protection Program. And one of the gigantic, very wealthy evangelical churches got $4.4 million as a result of that. That kind of stuff just shouldn't be happening. And they need to be much clearer, in their parameters. We all were reactive, I think, in this process from the federal government on down. And so, it was a good opportunity to just step back and do a little mea culpa. I wish that we had had a little more time, but I'm happy with the decision we made. My thoughts about funding, and again, I will always reiterate, I'm one of 5 council members. But my preference would be to take a look at fund balance dollars. I don't want to utilize Parks, Trails and Lakes dollars for this. So I would want to take a look at some of our fund balance dollars to see if we could make that work.
Thanks for the input.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And then also to the funding, and I don't know when it's the appropriate time, but we always talk about leveraging dollars and seeking opportunities. And, this could be a good opportunity if there's a business out there, organization or something where there's a potential naming rights of a clubhouse, and try to secure some form of sponsorship. I don't know if and when that's the right time to approach that, but it is a great location right off of Highway 97, and a lot of good traffic comes through there. And I think that's only going to improve in the coming years with the improvements to Highway 97. So, I've seen other communities have secured naming rights for other recreational facilities in larger dollar amounts where it's, hundreds of thousands of dollars, and it's split up over a certain number of years. So, I think that's just something to keep in mind as a commission, if there's an opportunity to pursue that on our behalf to try to help bring in some funds if needed. So
I would have a suggestion there, Jamie, potentially for you. Jim Trudeau is he has a long and stellar history with Castlewood. Started the youth program there. I'm not sure that his family is in a position to be able to, donate something, but in terms of naming rights, I know, he's pretty highly respected in this community, and there may be an opportunity to, kind of engage the golfers, maybe a tournament to raise funds, I think there would be a wonderful opportunity there. And I think it would be, I think the family would be eternally grateful. Jim was a Forest Lake police chief here, Forest Lake police officer, then Forest Lake police chief, and he was the Washington County sheriff for a number of years. So he has a pretty wide net, in terms of relationships, and that may be a, to kind of rally around some fundraising there. But I would consider that naming anyway, you know what I mean? Just given his contribution.
Yeah, that's really good feedback. And I just, that was my thought of, is there a way that we can try to secure some funds or, make this into a positive end result with some, dollars donated in the community or from a local business or what have you. So something we can keep in mind.
Sorry.
I think there were a lot of misconceptions about the plan for this building, and that's part of the it all being so rushed. There is quite a bit of contentiousness with Stella's right now, and I have no interest in, I have no interest in competing with Max at Stella's at all. I think though we do have the right to kind of balance that with opportunity to generate some revenue within that space. And I've kind of addressed all of that in my statement. So if anybody's interested, just head there and take a look.
Yeah, no,
Glad to at least see it. I do think it has some potential, and we've talked about a year-round facility. We've talked about, we had to go to Bunker Hills to rent cross-country skis. And then where did we eat? We didn't eat in Forest Lake. And so I do think there's opportunities for some partnerships here and to create year-round. So I'm glad to hear that when things happen, it will come through Parks, Trails and Lakes, and we will have an opportunity to see plans and chime in and be part of that. So thank you.
I just would like to see it ready for the golf season, because
Yes.
that whole first sixth hole area is torn up.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure what they're going to do there. They've got a lot of repair work to do to be able to get that course open.
Yeah.
so if you guys just kind of keep that in mind, that's just, I wanted to make sure you guys, if you didn't see the council meetings, were updated on that, because that is a pretty significant change, of course. And, obviously, as Councilmember Byström mentioned, it was a very quick process, and we'll be able to be involved in some capacity, I'm sure, as we navigate through this. So,
And the right decision.
Jamie, I'm going to ask one other question about last night's meeting, and it's probably a dumb one, but I can't help myself. Team Vantage purchasing additional land from the city, does that result in park dedication fees?
From my understanding with this particular sale of land, it was just a land sale and no other fees are due from them for the city. So I don't think, no parkland dedication, and I don't know if there's any other fees that the city was collecting.
Okay.
I guess one more, just a quick, sorry to throw this in there, just as a result of the meeting last night as well. which was, I just wanted to share that, and Councilmember Byström, you can chime in. The budget for 2021 was approved, and I believe that this was included in there, the Parks and Trails, $50,000 proposed for park dedication. I believe that went through. So Councilmember Byström, am I correct on that?
You are correct on that. It's my hope
Okay.
that it's my hope that this is the beginning of an annual increasing commitment to parks, trails, and lakes.
So I just wanted to comment to Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission. I know in the time that I've been here, the only source of revenue coming in for park dedication was strictly through development projects. And so this is the first time I've seen a step in this direction of, dollars being dedicated to the parks dedication from the general fund. So just thank you to, city administration and council for considering this and making that suggestion, because that's definitely a step in a direction that I haven't seen taken. So thank you for that.
Jamie, do you want to mention anything about the shift of the Lakes, Forest Lake Association dedicated funding to the surface water fund?
I caught a fraction of that just bouncing to the other meeting. So I know there was a shift in that. If you want to elaborate on that, that would be appreciated.
Yeah, we as council made a decision to shift the funding, move the funding for the Forest Lake Association out of the general fund and into the surface water fund, which makes some sense to me. It's a little tricky. We do need some good communication around this because those fees are sort of outside of that general budget, and we want to be sure that we are really clear that there isn't some funny use of the numbers there going on, or the shifts out of that general fund. It doesn't reflect well on that, and I agreed. We got a lot of feedback on it. Some were really, really concerned about that shift, but so I agreed to support it for this next year, at least, just to see how things go. I know there will be a little more ownership of some of the partnership work with Forest Lake Association, with Parks, Trails, and Lakes Commission. So there will be we'll be asking more of you in terms of their projects they're proposing and vetting and funding and those sorts of things. But again, we did not want to, the lake aligns with the surface water fund. So it makes sense to kind of pull it out of there, shift it. And we also shifted just for 2021, one time, an additional $10,000 to the Forest Lake Association out of the Human Rights Commission budget. Because it doesn't appear that we're going to be, there's a lot of work going on in partnership with the school district, and now a lot of planning work that's going to happen the first 2 to 3 quarters of 2021. So it doesn't look like the Human Rights Commission is going to relaunch until late Q2, 3, and maybe even into Q4. So we left some for them. But shifted for some projects that the Lake Association needs to do this next summer, especially with regard to some of the invasive weeds they have in that setting. So, so we're going to keep an eye on that, and we'll have some more communication coming out about that. I think in terms of our lake health citywide, this is a really good decision. This is where these dollars probably should be housed, because all of that ties together. All of the MS4 work that we're doing, the lakes, the ponds, the street sweeper, it all is, the health of our surface water. All about the health of our surface water community.
Thank
So,
you. I think that does make good sense.
More on that. Doug, you in particular, do you have any thoughts about that? Because I know you're pretty involved with Clear Lake Association.
Well, I think having a focal point to go to with if we have a request for funding, to have that identified, or a specific time or place and person
Yeah.
would be very good. The Clear Lake Association has benefited from the city's generosity in the past. It has eliminated milfoil from Clear Lake, and we appreciate that, but we're somewhat self-sufficient as well. We're going to increase our inspection hours to try to keep invasive species out of the lake as long as possible. And so we've asked for a little help on that, but it's, $2,800, fairly small potatoes compared to other requests we have made in the past.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to look. I can't remember what the context was, but they anticipate they had 10,000 more boats on Forest Lake during last summer than they have had in previous years.
Clear Lake saw a significant increase as well. A lot more fishing going on during COVID.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, my son is in boat sales and he had a really good year.
I bet. I bet.
You're gonna have a really good holiday. Better find you something nice.
Yeah.
Tim, were you going to say something?
Yeah, I had a question back to what you brought up about the Team Vantage sale. I'm just curious as how or when these parkland dedication funds happen. Is it at the time of the sale of the land, or is it at the time of development?
I believe it's at the time of the sale of land when those fees are collected. All the fees that, I believe they have a form they fill out, and there's a list of all the different potential fees and whichever ones are applicable are due at the time of land. But it sounds like, I think, to Commissioner Miller's conversation or comments earlier and to this comment now, I think what would be helpful is getting you guys some more information on the fees for parkland dedication. And I know we talked about it last month we've up until now in the last 5 years, we've been, in a policy to take park dedication fees, and 50% of that was going to go towards the Fenway loan, and then 50% we could save for improvements. And now that loan is paid down, we talked a little bit about what's our process, or how are we going to allocate or bookmark or, hold some of the park dedication funds as they come in, so that are they going to remain in that certain area for development? Are we going to use them in a different area? So I think we need to have maybe a discussion next month on park dedication fees and developing a policy for how we want to use them moving forward. Seems like it might be helpful.
Could we get an update of the code? Because I know the ordinances that I have still have the dog restriction for the parks.
Yeah, do you guys all want like a printed copy? I mean, maybe we can figure out what would be, maybe not right now, but I can reach out and see what would be helpful if you guys want printed copies of something in a binder, so you don't have to review everything online, because the city code's online, but I know it's just tonight I have, 3 screens going with multiple documents. So it's, if there's things that you'd prefer to have just as like a little reference guide, just let me know and I can get some things printed out and put together for you.
And I apologize, everybody. I have to hop off and get to another meeting at 6:30. So
Got 1 minute.
thank you all for your great work, and happy holidays.
Thank you. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Bye-bye.
So
Is there, let's see, I think we had, yeah, I'd like an updated paper copy of the ordinances.
okay,
I would as well, thank you.
I would as well.
I'll get that for everybody.
Thank you.
So I'm still a little confused on that when the land gets sold and they don't have the exact number of lots. How that
The
even,
commercial piece and the calculation for that.
yeah, so I
I'll
just.
follow up with you, Tim, on that. I'll
that'd
get
be
you
great.
information.
Check out.
All right.
All right.
I think that's it for my updates. Sorry it got long, but things added last night.
Anybody else have any updates or?
I have a question. You mentioned the drop off for gift cards. So like a Cub card, there's someplace in city center to City Hall to drop that off.
Yes, there's right at the front administration counter, there's a container that we have for gift cards to drop off.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you. Before we adjourn, I believe we have Commissioner Ramseth and I think Commissioner Miller. I believe, I'll have to verify, I believe your terms are up. Does that sound familiar to you?
They're 3 years.
What?
I believe that you guys are termed at the end of this year.
Is that right?
I
Okay,
believe
got you.
so. That's what my notes were telling me from our deputy clerk. So, I'm not to put you on the spot tonight, but you can, potentially re-enlist and sign up again if you're interested. And if not, we, want to definitely welcome you back to another meeting to, keep you engaged in conversation, but hopefully you'll reconsider because I think we made some good progress. It's been a weird year, but I think we have a lot coming up here down the chute that I think we're going to do some fun and exciting things. So.
Well, I can say that I'd absolutely love to rejoin if you'd have me.
Yay.
Thank you.
That's great to know.
I'll give you a call.
Oh.
That sounds good.
Oh,
In the event that we don't get to
that
form
was
anything
hi,
new,
and we'll go here right about now, Doug. Don't make us go this way, Doug.
there's a little process. I'll reach out to you regarding your appointment terms ending and reappointment in that process. So I'll reach out to you. And in the event, Mr. Ramseth, that you do decide to not continue on, we would just maybe want to invite you back so we can thank you for your time appropriately. But I'm sure you'd be happy to jump on a Zoom call in January for that.
I'd just like to give you a call and talk to you.
That sounds great.
All right.
All right.
Jamie, if you could tell Patrick, thank you. I was going to tell or Kathy as well, but thank you for the $50,000 in the budget. It is appreciated.
Will do. Thank you all for your time. Like I said, it's been a kind of a crazy year. So thank you for everything. And you guys have happy holidays and we'll reconvene here in a few weeks.
Thank you for all your
Bye.
hard work this year.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank
Happy
you.
holidays.
Yes, we need a motion to adjourn though.
Oh.
Yeah.
Before we hang up.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Hi.
Hi.
All right.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.